guys, today is a really big day because I have 3 people on the podcast. I've never had this before. This is the first time. So I have Blair, Hickey, Brian Wold, and Brian Patacca. So BBB on character. Yay. And if you don't know Blair and Brian, what you need to know about them is they are, I like to call, I was just thinking about this. They're the Professor Dumbledore and the Professor McGonagall of the wizarding world of
which one's which?
Yeah, of understanding actors' access and casting about. And
I feel like it might be more Dumbledore and Hagrid, frankly, but you know.
Brian, were you throwing yourself in the Hagrid bus just now?
Yeah.
Got it. And the reason I say that is because you are so delighted to share the information that you know about this, and you've told some of these things, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of times to people, and each time it feels like you are just as excited to share it and to share this knowledge with actors. And I just really appreciate that about both of you, and it just it's just a joy to talk to you and to be able to hear this. It's better to, like, you know, when you've been with a teacher who said, I've said this 1,000 times, that it never feels that way when I'm with you. Not that you're want to be called teacher, but you get what I'm saying. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. I mean, first of all, it's great to be here. So thank you for that. And yeah, I think we love talking about this because and you know, our little journey of being starting CastingAbout and then working with Breakdown Services and Actors Access and working with you, it's all because we discovered stuff that, you know, helped my career as an actor and helped other actors, and the more we share, the more we learn from people. It's great. So I mean, having this opportunity is awesome. It is great to see you again after way too much time.
Yes.
And I've already registered, by the way, you know, 2 Brians and a Blair. I think it's a pilot. I think I will be submitting that, writing that as soon as we're done here.
Netflix next year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm available for 2 Brians and a Blair. So
perfect.
Let's get right to it. So first of all, I think every actor in the world knows about Actors Access, and then CastingAbout came a little bit later. But one of the beautiful things that you have made clearer to me, and I'm going to ask you to make this point again, is how these 2 work together. And for anyone here who doesn't know what CastingAbout is, can you just give them the elevator pitch, understanding what it is?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Actors Access has been around for quite a while, and I think we all are familiar with it. And Brian was great in helping me kind of learn, because he comes from a sales and marketing background, you know, which is ultimately what we're talking about here. And, you know, I used Actors Access for years and never thought of it in these terms, but basically it's a sales tool, right? It is what you use to sell yourself for a specific role. And whether you're submitting yourself on Actors Access or your agent is submitting you through breakdowns, you are trying to sell yourself for a role. And it's great and it's necessary, and there's ways that it works really well and ways that we can all use it to our advantage and ways that we can use it better. And I know, Brian, you're excellent at giving that advice. And what we realized is that, and for my own career too, is selling yourself is one thing, but selling yourself to a stranger or to somebody you've never met or to somebody you don't have a relationship with is tough. It's spam. It's a cold call. You know, it's like, hey, hire me, and the casting director is going to say, why you? So CastingAbout came out of my own, and we've told the story a lot, but it came out of my own experience of getting dumped by an agency. I was signed by this new agency who promised a lot of great things. I had just a handful of auditions over the course of a year, and then they decided to cut half their clients to focus on series regulars. And, you know, so I got the sad phone call. And I had done very little work in that year. You know, they kept saying, we'll take care of you, don't worry about it. And so suddenly I kind of had to start over. Who did I know in town? Who knew me? Who knew that they could still contact me, but not through this agent, all that work. And so I became obsessed. I went into what we call revenge mode. And I started keeping track of every casting director doing TV in Los Angeles. Every casting director, every associate, every assistant. And it was in order to, you know, let them know, hey, you can still reach me here. And, oh, you're casting that. And I worked with you 6 months ago. And, you know, I like your new show. And maybe I could read for you there. And it became this database that all my friends were calling me about. Do you know where this casting director is? Do you know, what this person's working on and all that stuff? And Brian's kind of a genius in all things internet. And as the story, we've told many times, is we went out for burritos one day and I said, hey, I got this database and I think it could help actors and they want to use it. So what it ended up becoming is now in hindsight, we can think of it as the marketing side of the business. There's sales and there's marketing. One is, hey, I want this job. The other is, hey, get to know me and let me get to know you. So later on, when it comes time for the job, we already know each other and everything happens a lot easier.
Yeah, and on the marketing side of things, one of the things you realize is that the sales process happens really fast. Right? So a role is released, and within moments, there's already submissions from agents or from actors, depending on how it's released. And within an hour or two, there will be hundreds, and within a day, there might be thousands of submissions. And so the casting directors are in this position where they're flooded with very good actors who are talented, who are prepared, who have training, who have experience on their resume. And you want to be one of the people who gets noticed in the midst of that sort of really dense cloud. So this is a relationship-based business. So the thing that you do is you say, well, if it's a relationship-based business, I need relationships. I need to build relationships with these people. And I'm not about being their friend. I'm not talking about jumping out at them when they're in the supermarket, when you find them on the street, whatever. I'm talking about being a professional with a professional relationship. Because when a casting director first reads a script, they get to a role and they look at it. And the first thing they're thinking is, who do I know that can fill this role? Mm-hmm. How great would it be to be that person before the breakdown is even released? Right?
Yeah.
So sure, Actors Access is awesome when you are, in for what it does. And it's great for that. And the submission services that are there, you need those things. We're not proposing that CastingAbout is that. CastingAbout is for way in front of that. Before you even get started, who do I know? Who's casting the kinds of things that are right for me? How do I get involved in, starting to build and maintain relationships in that way? So that's what we've been all about since the beginning of it.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that's so important to make a distinction here is people might think like, well, is it IMDb? And it's not at all, because IMDb is like, it's as if I always feel like IMDb is like looking at in the side of a window of a shop. Like you don't have all of the details. You don't know like how much is the price on that? How long has that been on the rack? Like, and on CastingAbout is like, this is the associate on there. This is the assistant on there. This is what they're casting right now. This is what's in hiatus. It's just so much more in depth. And also, and for those of you who don't know, haven't checked it out already, if you're not already turning off this podcast or listening to it while you're looking at it, is, it has all of the addresses and it's got this beautiful functionality for you to check the boxes and write notes. And so that you are, like you said, having this other piece of who am I building the relationship with, so that when my face does come across their screen from Actors Access, from Breakdowns Express, like I already know who that person is. I was thinking of Blair. I was thinking of Brian. I was thinking of Kelly, Celine, whoever's listening right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they've already, because they've connected with them in the past. So I think that's so great to think about how they work in tandem. So one of the ways that so people, when they're talking to me who I'll have dinner with my partner's coworker or somebody, and they'll be like, what do you do? And when I'm trying to explain what Actors Access is, I'm like, it's like the LinkedIn for actors is the best way that I can kind of give them an idea of what it is. And in some ways it's that, but it is so much more. When you're describing it, you did a good job of describing it earlier, Blair, but how do you encapsulate a little bit more of all that it does? Is there another way to describe this?
Actors Access or CastingAbout or both?
Actors Access.
Actors Access. It does a ton. And first and foremost, it is the largest database of actors in North America. It's been around long enough, and everybody's in it. And it is free to create a profile and keep it up there. And there's charges you can upgrade for different things, but you can create a profile for nothing. And so we're up to 1 point something. I've lost track. It keeps growing. 1.34 million actors in North America. And you want to be a part of that database. So, you just need to be there. And sometimes people are confused. Okay, so the company is called Breakdown Services, right? That's been around since 1971. They think of them as they're the middleman between casting directors and agents. It's how casting directors and agents talk, mostly for theatrical projects, for 90-some% of projects in North America. And we're talking all the major markets and all the regional markets. So the union, TV and film and theater and equity and the ACTRA and the Canadian unions and the non-union stuff as well.
So wait, Blair, can I interrupt you? I need to interrupt you. I want everyone to just make sure you just heard. It is the #1 website in this part of the world for where auditions are listed for actors and where actors are to be found. for
Yes.
the
And
biggest projects and the most professional projects that are out there. Like, I just want to be really clear, like for TV, film, theater, like every agency in the world, whether they're CAA or Joe McGee, is using Breakdowns Express.
Yeah, and I think just to be, because we're primarily here today talking to actors, I think let's put it from that perspective. If you are an actor who wants to be cast theatrically, you're going to need an Actors Access profile. Yes. You probably already have one, but if you don't spend time curating that profile, keeping it up to date, working about it, whatever, that is your resume as a theatrical actor. Now there's another company in town that does a lot of the commercial auditions, and so you're likely to have a second profile over there. And that again, if you're going to be a commercial actor, that's where you need to be. And so from that standpoint, it's at an absolute minimum. If you want to be a working actor, a working actor, you're going to have that.
And just to be fair, I know so it doesn't sound like a commercial. That's there's some other services, and I think it's an actor. You got to check things out, of course. But it's just Breakdown started in 1971. It sort of created this middleman between the two. There was no middleman between the two. A lot of actors don't know this, but pre-Breakdown services, an agent spent every day driving to casting directors' offices and sitting on their couch and reading the script and pitching their clients from headshots in a bag as they read the script.
Wait, can we go back to those days?
Yeah, yes. This is actually in pre-71. If you're an agent, you are a door-to-door salesman. You are driving to a casting director's office. You are reading the script, going, "Ooh, how about this guy? How about Brian? Hold on, I got the other Brian. And how about these guys?" And then you get in your car and you drive to the other office, or you walk across the lot and you go to the other office. And it's just sounds like a nightmare to me, And then Gary Marsh is the founder of Breakdown Services, and he's the one who said, well, wait a minute, if I break the script down into character descriptions, and agents can then review that in the comfort of their own office, and then have these headshots messengered back in the day to the casting director's office, it works out for everybody. So, he invented this space. And so since 71, we talk about relationship building. Since 71, the company has been building relationships with talent agents, with casting directors. Mm-hmm. What do you need? How can we deliver the information better? How can we write a breakdown that finds the best actor? How do we, not just a name and an age, but what's the story, right? I mean, Breakdown has a team of writers that break down scripts, and they're going through hundreds of scripts a week, breaking these down. And over the many, many years they've been doing this, they know how to really do it well, and they work directly with the casting directors to say, okay, this is what you need. And then so the right actors are delivered. So then within this space, after decades of doing this, then Actors Access came along, which said, okay, well, wait a minute. And the way that happened was there were student filmmakers, there were, low budget filmmakers who wanted actors, and they would put a breakdown out on Breakdown Express. The problem was agents get 10%. So they were looking at this project and going, well, I don't, 10% of pizza is not worth my time. Yeah. So I'm going to, they didn't give those projects the attention they needed. Right. So with Actors Access, well, how about a platform where you could deliver these breakdowns directly to actors and actors could submit themselves, right? And that, again, really reestablished this space. Now, of course, when something is done well, then other people come along and, copy the model, and now we've got different platforms and all that stuff that we navigate. But what I really appreciate as an actor is the relationships they have and the fact that they vet this stuff, Sadly, there are places we can all go as actors online and find a casting notice that anybody can put up.
Oh my God.
And they're just there.
Dangerous, or it can be a waste of time.
Yes.
And they're you into wasting, getting feedback from someone that does not matter because it's someone in their garage. And so it, not that the garage is bad.
Sadly, all that stuff really happens, right? The one that says, come audition for this film, and then you do, and this happened recently. Somebody gets the call that says, "Oh, we wanted to cast you. We were so close. We couldn't quite do it because you don't quite have the experience. But if you take our class, then and so all the
if you're
stuff
in
you
any
can
major
think
market
of.
and you haven't heard that already, it's coming. because that's,
Yeah.
that's the nature of things. And, Blair and I aren't here to sell anybody anything today. But I have seen from the halls of breakdown services, back when we used to be in the halls of breakdown services, but I have, I've been in and outside of people's offices when they have told filmmakers, we are not going to release your breakdown because we don't believe you. And
or because of this problem, or you need to fix this, or whatever it is.
So the two great things, if you're a young actor, if you're an experienced actor, if you're, a person who might be in a sort of quote unquote vulnerable position, the two great things about Actors Access and the way Breakdown runs it is A, they vet everything. And so you can generally believe that if it's there, it's pretty good. And B, if you have any question about it at all, ask. And they will spring into action. And I've seen them do it. They will, if there's a wait, I'm not sure, this looks sketchy, we'll research it and give you advice on it. And that for as weird as this business can be, that is a nice, comforting thing.
Oh yeah.
We love the idea that actors find work however you find work. And so there's all these other things that sort of appear and they pop up, and sometimes they disappear, sometimes they stay in business, whatever. And look, whatever way your path to success is, I celebrate that. But anywhere else that you go, do your due diligence. You just have to do your due diligence, because I say the same thing about virtually any of the other services that are out there.
And we say this, and I say this as, I'm an actor is my primary gig, right? So then we develop CastingAbout because it's information I want, and then and then other people seem interested, great, so people can sign up, and then it kind of took off. And it was Gary and Breakdown Services and Actors Access who said, hey, let's talk about what you have, because we all realized they had a great sales tool. We developed what turned out to be a great marketing tool, and the sales and marketing should go together. So the amazing thing is now as an actor, I sort of accidentally stumbled into like behind the scenes at Breakdown Services, right? I got to see this stuff. And to this day, Brian and I, we oversee CastingAbout in our staff, and that's our job as consultants. And I'm not in all the Actors Access breakdown meetings, but I get to witness it. I get to see it. I get to ask the questions and watch what they do. And
because Blair's an actor, is consulted on a lot of things in terms of what's your experience and so on. Blair was one of the people who helped test the new virtual audition systems, which Breakdown calls EcoCast Live. We'll maybe talk a little bit about that too, given the way the world has gone. That's become a big reality for and Blair was one of the first people to get on screen and see what worked and what didn't work and so on, as they were kind of scrambling in the midst of a pandemic to produce a service that would let the industry reconnect safely.
Yeah. So I think a long time ago, there was a question about, can you sum up what that is? And then obviously I did not do a good job because we've talked for 10 minutes. So, I don't know if that was a summary or not.
For the three of us, every conversation the three of us have had ever has just been like, it's half the fun.
3 hours later.
So I want to grab the reins a little bit here. And I want to go into the question of, so let's pretend I'm the actor who's like, yeah, I'm an Actors Access. Duh, I already know that. Like, good, like, cool. Yeah, of course I don't submit to lame projects that sound like sketchy. Like, I get it. Like, who's like poo-pooing on this conversation right now?
For sure.
Because they're like, yeah, duh, I know this already. The person who's saying that right now. What I want to know is, I see this, and I'm curious what you see. There are so many places that actors neglect, even at the top of their game, when it comes to using both of these tools. What are the things that are always a surprise to you? You're like, no, not a surprise. Are always not a surprise to you. Like, yeah, every actor forgets that, and every actor doesn't do that. And yep, of course, you have been 4 guest stars, you have a series regular, and you still don't have that on your profile. Like, what are those things, both profile and CastingAbout, that you like hear?
Yeah, I mean,
let's start with Actors Access.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I thought I set you up. I was like, let's start with Actors Access. Go.
Yes, thank you, Blair. Yes, thank you, Blair. That was very nice of you. And as we read from our script, Blair, that was so good. The thing that casting directors tell us when we're out talking to them is, please, please, please ask actors to keep their resume up to date. And in particular, because those of you who have done this before, you kind of create sections, and there's a regular, you create a header, you put your, there's a regular style that these things are, and you should follow that. Don't get weird with that. This is not the place for you to be unique and creative. But specifically, the two things that casting directors talk a lot about, particularly in the Los Angeles market, is one, your education. Keep that up to date with what your education is. And two, the special skills thing. They be complete, but be sure that you can actually do the stuff that your special skills call for. The thing with education in particular, you think of it this way: the casting director is advocating with their producers. They're online, their producers are in Romania or whatever, and they're advocating online between actor A and actor B. Actor A, they're not looking at your paper profile, which you just updated last week. They're looking at your actor's access profile.
Mm-hmm.
And if that one is not up to date, the producer goes, I don't know. It doesn't look like they've done anything for 2 years. And the casting director is like, no, they've done stuff. Well, you are fighting uphill if you don't update that.
The beauty about the digital stuff, like Brian said, is your profile, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Headshots,
Yep.
demo reel, demo clips. We'll talk about that in a minute. The resume, special skills, all that stuff. With a click of a button, that is forwarded to a producer from a casting director, right? So, hey, check out, and they're advocating for you.
Yep.
And when that is not as complete as it should be, or when it is bloated and overly complete, we'll talk about photos in a moment. It's not going to sell you, right? This sales tool, it is not going to sell you in the best light. So your profile is your package, you're the product, and not updating that and making it reflect who you are as a storyteller in the most streamlined, sort of slick way.
Blair,
actors do not maintain as much.
Can I jump in for 1 second? You said packaged in the most slick way, whatever. Can I just rephrase that a second for people?
Yes.
Your job is to draw a line between your profile and the role that is being cast. Your job is to make it as simple as possible for the casting director to say yes to you. If you think about everything we're about to say in that framework, how do I make it easy for them to say yes? We're going to give you a bunch of suggestions on that, but it is all in that way. So when Blair is talking about, people sometimes react to the word slick, and I don't want you to react to the word slick. I want you to make the casting director's job easy, specifically easy for them to say yes to you.
I like the idea of letting Actors Access take care of the slick part of it. So we take care of the clear and drawing the straight line part of it. And that because it is laid out uniformly, it then takes care of what we're saying is the slick or the looking good part. And one of the things I want to make sure any actor who's hearing, yeah, but I don't have that many credits. So my thing isn't about updating. My thing, that's all there is. I often think also actors suffer from this, it's a weird kind of thing. It's like a double-edged sword of honesty where be honest, never lie on your resume. And then also, if you got cut out of a film, that's the film's problem, not yours. You can still say you booked that film. You can still say you had that role. That is not your job to make sure that they can't go find it. But it's not listed. I always hear this, but it's not listed on IMDb yet. I don't know who is out there cross-checking your resume against IMDb. I'm not going to say you're being you've got a big ego in that moment, but I really don't think anyone's doing that. So there's that weird sliver of honesty and hyper honesty where someone's going to find out that I got cut from that. So I just think that's also a place where if anybody's hearing this and going, yeah, but I don't have that much, don't write off some of those things you've done in the past.
Yeah, Brian, you're absolutely right. And industry people know that IMDb is notoriously hard to update. And so they get it.
Yeah, totally.
I think this is related to the fact that sometimes actors feel the need to list every credit they've ever had because, they want to do that. And I think the idea, I love the idea, and you'll hear me say storyteller a lot. That's a big deal for me, is because that's what we do. We're freelance storytellers. And what kind of storyteller are you? In other words, what I always think of it, and on good days, I think, okay, when I go to an audition, what about my voice? What can I bring to this story? What am I lending to this story that is unique to me, right? So, because that's my job. So now when I start to build a profile, I'm building the profile that highlights me as a storyteller. And who am I as a storyteller right now, which is different than when I first got to LA 20 years ago. I'm a different storyteller. So, and I love the idea that a resume, and I'll give her credit. Bonnie Gillespie, who wrote Self-Management for Actors, has a great thing that I love, which is that a resume is not supposed to be everything you've ever done. It is instructions for how to cast you in the future. So in other words, look at me as a storyteller. These are the kind of roles that I can tell really well. This is the story that I am good at telling, that people hire me to tell. This is the kind of quality I could bring to your story. So paring down the resume to reflect that, trimming all the photos that you don't need, that because you pare it down to this is who I am as a storyteller. So to go back to your question, Brian, some of the things we see wrong wrong is a hard word, but things that people do into their profile that are not to their advantage, for instance, is putting up 30 pictures. Because look at me in a variety of different ways with hat, no hat, tie, no tie, long hair, short hair, glasses, no glasses. And not necessary at all. It reads more desperate than it does professional.
And I think one of the things you just said, two things I want to use the stories that you are going to tell as an editing tool for what goes on your resume. So if you do have a lot of credits, or you do have a lot of training, or you do have a lot of headshots, who are you showing this that you're becoming, or that you're telling stories now? Use that as the editing tool for if you've got a wealth of information. My version of what Bonnie said is, don't make your resume into a passport. It needs to look like your airline ticket. Don't show me everywhere you've been. Show me where you're going, right? And I think that's the same exact thought, right?
Like it a lot, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very important.
So,
yeah, I was just gonna say, because so in the sales tool, the Actors Access part of it, almost trying too hard, to be everything to everybody and to show all the clips and all the pictures and the resume and all that stuff. I think the more professional, honed in, this is who I am as a storyteller, is fantastic, and I think with that as your guiding principle, it's hard to go wrong, on the CastingAbout side.
wait, pause.
Sorry?
The question I always get.
Yes.
How many headshots, Blair? How many headshots? I'm sure you get it too, and it's the most annoying question because I feel like it doesn't have to always have the same. Maybe you have a standard answer. Do you have a standard answer?
We'll start with 2.
I'm going to say 2.
Wow.
I'm going to say let's start with 2. And the reason we say that is because every time we've talked to a casting director, the response has been, 2.
Wow. Okay, so question.
Sure.
So many actors, this is such a good little juicy part that actors always ask about, is because their manager or their agent will say, I want you to have this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I'm always like, fight with them. Can you get it down to 6 or 4 at least? Can you really here's my question. So if I'm the manager or agent, I'm choosing pictures that I submit. If I'm the casting director, I'm only seeing that photo that they submitted unless I choose to dig a little deeper. Is that correct? That's
correct.
Correct. You see the photo that is submitted for the project, which is great. But we have found, and a lot of casting directors have told us, that first of all, if they know you, right? Let's go back to if you have the relationship and they go, oh, Brian, great. Okay, you're done, right? And that's what you want. Now, there are times when they don't know you, but they'll stop. Maybe they've got a picture in their head and your headshot goes by and it matches that picture. And they go, wait a minute, that's interesting. I need to, and what this boils down to is, and this is another good, I think, principle for managing your profile. Think from a casting director's point of view, which is, I only have 30 slots to fill for this audition, right? That's it. I don't have the time. I wish I could see 100 actors. I can see 30 because I'm out of time. So, because they do that. They actually schedule auditions, one every, 10 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes, depending on the role. So, I've got 3 hours. I can see 6 actors an hour, 18 actors. That's it, right? So I have 18 slots, or let's say 30 slots. Well, I already know 5 or 6 guys that off the top of my head that I'm going to bring in. So now I've got 20 some slots left to go. So I stop on this headshot I've never seen before. The question is this person worthy of one of my slots? Are they going to come in and tell the right story? Because if I bring in somebody who maybe they give a fine reading, but it's not the story I need, I've wasted a slot, So what they do is they say, okay, that picture's okay, but now let me click and look at other pictures, because do they really are they telling consistent stories? And we've talked to casting directors. Brian, what was the one that they said they pulled up and all of a sudden it was like 30 pictures?
Yeah. And so it was somebody who we were in obsession. We were observing the casting director. They pulled up this thing and she looks at it and she goes, I see this a lot. This person doesn't know who they, I don't have time to figure it out for them. Pass. And Blair and I were like, kind of screaming a little bit inside our heads because, that is a person who missed an opportunity because they thought that having more pictures was better. I come from a marketing background, and in the marketing world, you want to have specific, focused, targeted marketing, right? You want to say, what is the message that I'm telling, and how do I tell that message over and over and over and over again, so that the message is constantly reinforced. Actors do this thing sometimes where they're like, well, I got trained to be everything to everybody all the time. I can play any role you want me to play. So I'm going to get a headshot that does this. I'm going to get a headshot that does this. I'm going to get a headshot that does this. I'm going to get a headshot that does this. And they think that what they're telling, the story they're telling is, I could be anything you need at any time. What is going to get you your next role is the headshot that matches that next role. Right. So if you try to put all these other headshots out there, if you try to give people the I could be anything all the time, instead of getting the next role, you get no role. You become like, I don't know what to do with you. And that's a really dangerous place to be.
It's too generic. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think it changed my career, which is, because you want to be everything to everybody, and I can do lots of different things. But the problem is, think of the numbers. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of actors are we dealing with, just in Los Angeles, and in, tens of thousands in the union. And so when a casting director reads a script and I want them to go, oh, Blair would be good for this part. Well, in order for them to think of me, think of the noise that I have to cut through for them to think of me. And so that only happens when there is a thing, a hook, a Blair thing, something that sticks in their brain, which is the unique thing that I bring to a script that nobody else can bring, because I'm me. And that's the gift, that's a superpower that all actors have. We have this unique spin that nobody else can duplicate. So why not lean into, and actors get wiggy on this because they don't want to be typecast and they don't want to always play the same role. And we're not saying that. You have this unique thing that you are going to bring to comedy, drama, commercials, stage, whatever it is. You need to figure out what that is and then lean into it so that your profile has 2 or 3 or 4 pictures that could show, oh, that's, I can tell comedy, drama, but there's a through line between those pictures that is unique to this person. Because, and casting directors sometimes call it like, the Blair thing or the Brian thing or whatever, because they're, oh, well, Blair. And I've heard casting directors say, well, our job is to take this essence of a character on the page and marry that to the essence of an actor and put the two together. And it comes out with something unique and wonderful. Well, if you don't have that essence or that thing or that hook in their brain, you'll be forgotten. It's too generic. It's too, you sort of become like, talented actor guy. Yes. And I'd much rather be Blair.
Yes. And one of the things that I want to build on top of what Brian said, because these things I think go together, which is if you're showing, let's pretend you're submitting to Celine Dion, the casting director, okay? And how many times does Celine have a job that's exactly right for you? So how many times in the course of a year are you being submitted to Celine? And if you're using a different photo every single time and she doesn't know you, it's not even landing that you're the same person.
Right, exactly
right. Over again, right? When you move to that place where she's like, I know Blair's name. Like your picture doesn't matter at the point when they know your name because, oh yeah, Blair's right for this. They know you. Pictures, it doesn't matter in that point. But if you're at the point when you're trying to get known by certain offices and you're using a different photo every time, you're almost not even making an impression, which is what I'm really taking away from this. Mm-hmm. And what you just said, Blair, I think is so important because all of us, because we can go in two black holes here. The one black hole is, I don't want to be typecast. And then the other black hole is, I need to figure out my castability, which you can spend in for decades trying to figure out what it is. And when I did all these interviews with managers and agents before I created one of my courses, and half of them said, I can tell when I look at your picture what your castability is. I don't need your help. And half of them said, you can give me a little bit of help, right? So I think what's so curious about that is an actor going down the rabbit hole and the black hole of like my castability.
The black rabbit hole.
Right. Is I always feel like if you're in an acting class where a teacher is talking about you're bringing that Brian thing, that you're bringing that Blair thing to this, that you find it, and then you talk to a photographer and about that, like that conversation is very different than what sweater am I going to wear?
Yes.
Right.
100%.
Then you get that picture that can be one of two and feel confident. I'm okay with 2 photos now. Like you can actually stand behind it.
And here's the thing about the Blair thing or the Brian thing. It's there. It is there. There is a thing that you do that makes you you. So whether you lean into it or not, it still is a part of who you are. And if you don't know what it is, then you're playing with all the tools that are available in your arsenal. Like, how much better as an actor can you be if you know what your thing is, that is the, and you're able to sometimes push against the edges of that and sometimes go right down the middle of the lane? Like, how much better does that make if you know what that is? So if you don't know what that thing is, those of you who are listening in, that's your homework. That's your immediate homework. Like, figure out what is it that makes you unique, because I guarantee it's there. And if you're not aware of it and either using it or working, to sort of expand the edges of it, there's an opportunity missed right there.